Hey everybody, welcome back to Fractured Thinking. I'm going to be talking about work, experimentation, research, and then learning. I've been working on a game recently, and it's a multiplayer game. And I've had a bunch of different realizations kind of going through it. But I've realized that one of the things I constantly come back to is this idea of how much you might need to know to do a certain thing. I feel like we live in this world where we see, I should specify, me, an American, who lives very much in the Western world, is steeped in this concept of the overnight success or, creating a business and getting $1 million or whatever. And that is what it is. I'm just, over time shattering this mentality in a lot of ways. Fundamentally, Western view is very individual, whereas Eastern views are more group focused. Just like looking at different religions, it's pretty clear what that means. But we're not going down that road. The road that I want to go down in this video is, this idea of an overnight success, right? If we start to break that up, there's no such thing. You only hear about someone who has a viral hit because they've, written so many songs that finally one of them was successful. And maybe you hear about these stories of people who make this amazing work because they're so smart and so genius that they just sat down and cranked it out, right? A good example is maybe John Carmack and Doom, or any artist, right? Well, that's a fish. You might just have this idea that, they just scrub their pencil on the page and boom, a masterful thing comes out of it. But I'm reading this book about Doom, which is where some of these thoughts are coming from. But it's also coming from this notion of doing things because I'm bored. And I guess what I'm coming to realize is that, nothing, right? Doom took 16 months or something, but I wouldn't say I would put Carmack as a role model for a couple different reasons. But if you look at purely his self as a programmer and problem solver, I was looking at Doom's network code for my own game just yesterday or 2 days ago. There's a lot to learn if you look at it. Now, he was working 12 hours a day, and a part of the reason that id broke up, so to speak, was that he wasn't happy with the quote-unquote work ethic of the other John, from what I'm understanding. And that other John was doing important things, but it wasn't what Carmack saw as super important, shall we say. Whether those things were important or not aside, but, Carmack was doing these 12 hours days and very good at concentrating and focusing, which I think is a trait that is admirable, especially in the modern day. But what's interesting with Doom and even Quake is that from Carmack's point of view, they're just these tech demos and a way to be really good at or expressing yourself through technology, right? And solving these different problems. I mean, games are, I would argue, the reason why graphics and computer graphics have come so far. Or the biggest reason. And so when you look at this notion of this overnight success, right? Oh, I want to make a game as big as Doom. You don't get that without someone who's so adamant about the technology that it's groundbreaking, nor someone like Romero, from what I'm understanding, who does all the extrovert advertising stuff, right? And has the game design and ideas for it. And so what I'm understanding with my own game at the moment is that I don't know how to make a multiplayer game server. I understand the theory and stuff behind it. That's not a question. But I don't know how to do it. I wouldn't say, oh, I know how to do that. I know how to start, so that's something. But just like I don't really know how to draw the human head, I know where to start. And the thing is, how do I put this? It's like knowing something is a definitive state. I know how to make a game, therefore I can make any game is false. It doesn't exist. So saying I am an artist also doesn't exist. Which is kind of interesting, I think. And so, you know, I am a game developer is not, I think I made a fractured thinking about this actually, but how did a can bite in some way? You know, it's not, I am a game developer because I have made 3 games. It's, I'm a game developer because I actively work on games. You know, we're all lifelong students. I feel like I've heard that as a phrase somewhere, but I guess it's objectively true. When you're in school and you graduate with a degree, for example, okay, now you're a graduate, but a graduate doesn't stop learning. It's not like you have everything you need to know. You just have a base fundamental. That's the point of a degree, right? And so when we look at things like work, and so I'm a software engineer by trade, right? So in my day job, I'm writing code for effectively a web company. And that's work. And a while ago, I read this thing by Theodore Adorno about work, hobby, and play. It's about leisure time. I have an actual main channel video on that, but that aside for a moment, he separates these 3 distinctions of work, hobby, and leisure time. Now, work is the concrete, God dang it, thing, right? My day job. Hobbies are things that kind of are work, but they don't, you're not required to do them for some social standing or external reason. And then leisure time is when you just aren't doing anything. Walking in nature, for example. I myself have a 4th category. I don't really know what I call it. Maybe I can call it brain rotting time, right? But leisure time, for example, would be watching TV, catching up on ReZero that came out. But as soon as you watch, 10 episodes in a row and start to genuinely feel bad or don't intend to do it, that's when it becomes this 4th category of brain rotting time, in my opinion. Because like Instagram Reels, TikTok, they're not bad. I'd argue there are good things about short form content, but in excess and when abused by technology companies to keep people addicted so they can sell more ads to make more money, it's very bad. But we come back to this distinction of work, hobby, and leisure time. And when working on my last game, Tease of the Kingdom, and this, I kind of talk about this in my devlog, it's yet to be uploaded, but I was so obsessed with this notion of completing as much as possible. I had a Trello board, I had tickets on my own Trello board. And this is a good thing, I still believe, because it keeps my ideas organized, right? I know what I need to do next. I want to execute on this idea, so I know what I'm going for. But it became work at some point. And I don't want, like, I'm a game developer and it's going to be work, but it's not just because I have to do it. There are inevitably slogs and having to grind, but there is work. And I think I'm still struggling to put words to it, but I think there's this notion that with work, very explicitly with work, you have a concrete outcome, right? When you have such a clear vision of something, like with drawing, this is why I'm always so disappointed, but with drawing, you might have a clear feeling that you elicit from an idea. And then all of a sudden, when your idea doesn't really come to fruition, well, the drawing sucks. But what if you don't have a concrete outcome? So whether I'm drawing and I no longer I've now convinced myself I'm not drawing a wolf, I'm just drawing a representation of a wolf. And then we see how good that representation of a wolf really fits on a technical level. And when we do something like concept design, we're figuring that out. I'm going to draw something out, and then I'm going to evaluate, how does it look? How is it a representation of the character that I want to get across, or the scene I want to get across? And then as a result of, I guess, research, you have concept art. So you don't set out to do concept art and then you don't learn how to do concept art and then make concept art. You make concept art, and that's how you learn how to make concept art. And eventually you just get really good at it, but you're always still learning. You'd never know exactly how. Other people have kind of figured it out, right? So when you say, how do I make a multiplayer game? Well, I can look up, oh, okay, I should use UDP connections to send packets over the wire. Oh, I need to be aware of, this out of ordering because UDP is fast. Well, why not use TCP? I can do this research. I have the advantage of doing this research. And that's amazing, right? We live in an era where we can do that, and it's incredible. But no one has made a server for the game I want to make. And I want to actually learn this stuff. So I'm writing this server from scratch, right? I'm learning how to draw from the imagination because no one has drawn my ideas before. Maybe there's some representation of them out there by someone else, but no one's drawn my ideas before. I want to draw my ideas. I'm not going to learn how to draw them and then draw them. I'm just going to try and draw them at some point. And I think we have work, right, and hobby, but there's also experimentation and research. And I think to a deeper level, play. Because you have to play with your chosen medium, your chosen craft, in order to really learn it. And I think the Western world mentality that I've been surrounded by, at least, is all about training us to have these objective outcomes. You do this well in a test and you get an outcome. You learn this material and then you will be able to get 100% on this exam, whatever this might be. Does this have something in it? I feel like it would. Let's follow the radio for a little bit. Oh, interesting. That's taking too much of my attention. Whoopee cushion. Oh, a sheet shell. Well, I don't think that's a whoopee cushion. And so lately with Thimble, the game I'm working on now, I'm returning to it and trying to make sure I don't have tickets. I have a text document to write down ideas and keep track of what I'm working on at the moment. But there's no Trello board. There's no task board. I think AI plays into this mentality so well, and that's the problem. Oh, I work at this job. I need to do the X, Y, and Z. Therefore, I can give it to AI, and AI will give me the answers I'm looking for. But when I'm going to make a multiplayer server and I want to make a game, my goal is to learn. I don't feel fulfilled if I just have it done. And I mean, part of it's my background, but I'm avoiding a lot of TV and a lot of YouTube, and I'm avoiding a lot of different things. And it's great. I'm drawing more and yada, yada, yada. And it's literally just avoiding the distractions and harnessing my boredom, if you will. And I did that when I had a Minecraft server. I didn't have tickets until I was, tracking player reports, but that's a good way to go. And so what happened with Tease of the Kingdom, I think, is that when I sat down to work on it, it wasn't really an exploration. It was like, oh, past me, set this out. Okay, I guess I'll do this next. And I didn't really take the opportunity to dig in and let myself play and research with different ideas. Because I was like, okay, I want to just finish this game now. And that's a really important thing for whatever you choose to do. Especially if it's a creative endeavor, artistic in any way. The video is another great example where I set out and I'm like, okay, I just gotta get it done. But then I don't explore with it. I don't ask myself, what story am I trying to tell? I just follow a recipe that I can churn out, and then they don't do well because it's not a good video. But I guess, my whole point of this is like, where else am I missing this? In a lot of ways, I can't really do this just explicit play with my day job. In some ways I can, but in many ways I cannot. And that's kind of the equivalent of finding a job that works for you, I think. You know, if I was working for a multiplayer game server company, I'm sure I would inherently have a lot more fascination, perhaps motivation to do new features or whatever. You know, if I had a more direct line to players and users, maybe there's a different story there. And that's... Oh, okay. Did I step on another rake? What? Oh, I did. Man, that actually kind of scared me. But yeah, I don't know. That's kind of all I'm really thinking about. It's just like it's just drilled into us that like there are completion requirements for everything, but that's not true. You know, Doom was released because, I mean, the products still have an end state, right? Like my game is gonna need to be done and playable before I can do anything with it. Oh, I just realized these all have different locations. What's the other location? I guess I'll just find out. And I think what makes working on Thimble fun is that I'm just exploring and experimenting. And I want to spend more time doing this. You know, what I learned with my week away is like, there's so much you can learn from just sitting with yourself. And that's what meditation is, right? It's a subjective exploration. There's no thinking, there's no processing. You're just seeing what's inside of you. And so, you know, my focus over the last couple days especially has just been making myself bored. Like right now, I was reading, and then I was like, you know, I've had this VGT task on my to-do list because I want to explore this idea. And these videos are a way for me to explore my ideas and share them with the world. That's great. I absolutely love seeing when people comment on these videos. There was 2 a while ago that like had a meaningful comment on it, and I was like, dang, I'm gonna keep doing this. But ultimately, you know, it's like the last Fractured Thinking, for example, had like 15 views. The ones before that had like 80. And it's so easy, for me at least, to get caught up in this mentality of, oh man, that one didn't perform as well. Maybe I should try changing the game. Maybe the topic wasn't good. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't. All I need to care about is just exploring with them, because either way I'm exploring an idea, and there are things that make these fractured thinkings feel good and some that make them feel bad, and whatever that might be, it is what it is. But it's just a great example of like, just experiment, play with the idea, research it, have fun. And I think in the Doom chapter I was just reading, I mentioned the research that Carmack had to do and spending thousands of dollars on textbooks. And like, we don't do that anymore. Or, well, I didn't. We forget, I think. Our school systems here, the ones I went through, teach us that everything to be known is learnable. There's also a Isaac Asimov short story, 60 pages, called The Profession. I would highly recommend reading it, because it also contributed to this idea where things aren't just knowledge that you implant upon yourself. You don't learn cover to cover and then make a game. If you do, you're never going to have an original idea in your life, because original ideas come from the synthesis of our own minds, taking up previous work and copying it and then twisting it, right? Like Paradise Marsh, the game I'm playing right now, is a great example. It's like a combination of Proteus and A Short Hike. It has references to each of them, and yet it's its own game, right? And it's its own unique experience. Thimble is an old Minecraft minigame that I'm working on, but I'm gonna make twists to it. And it's not Minecraft. It's just an executable that I want to send to my friends so we can chat and talk. And the game doesn't have to succeed, do very well. I'm gonna try to do play testing on YouTube, and I want to make a community out of it because that's what I want to do. But I gotta learn how to do it in the process of doing it. And so as I sit down with this mentality of Okay, you know, I'm not gonna work on Thimble right now. I've caught you before. Hello. I'm gonna research for Thimble. I'm gonna organize things for Thimble. Things for Thimble. Sound like a stutter there for a second. I wonder if I get that early speed plant and then I run through the Torii gates if anything happens. Anyway. I think I've kind of said all that I needed to say, or wanted to say. But when we do things because we're bored, or able to do things because we're bored and not stressing out about objective measurements, there's just so much creativity to be had. And of course, this is not possible in every work environment. And the ideal job is one where you do get to experiment and learn and play. And then by that experimentation, you produce results. And yeah, so that's what I've been thinking about. Let's hit this last fishing spot. Whenever you go out to do something you want to do, just experiment, research. If you're studying for a test, like, what can you learn from this test, this knowledge? What's there to be had from doing this studying, right? I mean, of course, you're trying to study for a 100, but like, in the real world, you don't get tests based on some pre-existing rubric or criteria that your teacher gives you. And I'm sure people have heard this before. This is not a new idea that I'm spewing out. But it's just a mentality that I've been so steeped in and am finally, I think I've been breaking the mentality for a while, but only recently have I found these words where, sure, I want to work on this game, but I don't need to learn how to make a game first. That's gonna happen as a byproduct. You know, let's just say I release Thimble and it's hugely popular and a bunch of people are like, oh my god, what do I need to learn to make my own game? Well, at that point, I'm just gonna say, make your own, just start. And then you'll learn what you need to as you go. And it might be bad, it might be good, I don't care, whatever. And that's what people really mean when they say just like start doing the thing and you'll learn as a byproduct. I guess at the end of the day, that's the only way I've actually ever learned anything. Oh wait, let me see if I can catch this. You know, you don't actually, games are a great example because you don't go into a game having looked up YouTube videos on how to play before you actually play it. That comes after. You play a bunch of Overwatch and you say, I want to get better at Lucio. And you look up some how to play Lucio videos. Anyway. Oh yeah, I'll take a camera. That's so sick. Alright. Game Boy. Wow, nothing shows up. Sepia. Picture snapped. Anyway, thanks so much for watching, everybody, and or listening. I've been your player one, Marker mobkinz78. Let me know in the comments what you thought about this one. Would love to hear any thoughts and where you might be exploring. So, have a good one. And as always, don't forget to stay awesome. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.